Welcome to Sesa Wo Suban. I am an intuitive spiritual evolution and ancestral transition doula because death seems like too small a word. So we just have to throw in all those extra words to try to make more sense. But our goal here, and I'm Mom Terry, our goal here is to highlight cultural burial practices, explore how death functions in our inner and outer worlds, and to provide space for otherwise unwelcome expression or uncomfortable expression or unorthodox. And that kind of, I think, is my favorite part about it. The parts that are unusual or quirky or even, dare I say, joyful when it comes to our experiences with death, ancestral transition, spiritual evolution. So I am so honored to be joined by your and my official fairy godmother, the Love Fairy.
Ow. We're so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I'm excited. I don't know what the fuck is about to happen, but I'm excited. Oh, am
Yeah.
I allowed to cuss on here? My bad.
Yeah.
We keeping this thing PG. You gotta let me know.
Mm, I would never. I would never.
Woo! Your fairy
I would
godmother is
never.
extra, extra.
Mhm. So normally I would want to, do a little introduction. Can you
Mm.
introduce yourself? Because I can't imagine having the proper words to encapsulate who you
I
are.
would have loved to hear them though.
So
But go ahead.
our official fairy godmother is the clearest of all channels.
Mm.
She is a mentor. I have never used that word before in my life. That's a lie. She's not a mentor. She does refer to herself as a coach. We do use that word. We also use the word Jegna, but she's not a mentor. I don't know where that came from. But a coach, a spiritual talent agent. She channels the fundamentals of creation, and we're going to get into just exactly what that means. And just all around a wonderful, loving, sometimes smothering being who just kind of popped into my life after I had a couple of cups of lotus blue
Mm.
lotus tea. I had some blue lotus tea, and then boom, you just showed up. So very. That's the evidence right there.
Amazing.
But I could go on, but if I could get you to, say a
I
little bit.
love that. That was good. See, I'm glad we went there. Okay. But yes, I am your official fairy godmother, and I do mean your official mother to the gods. Okay. Because we are in that time now where we have risen, we have come here for a particular reason, and we showing up and showing out. Okay. And so I am a fairy having a human experience. So myself that is projecting itself into this game to play in what we call reality life is a freaking fairy. Okay. And so, of course, I channel my fairy self and what we are calling the fundamentals of creation. So, the example that I like to give is just, everybody has a smartphone now. And so that smartphone comes with apps, right? And all the phones have the same app. And so your data suit, your human body, your spacesuit, your vessel comes with what I call a template. You know what I mean? And these are your fundamentals of creation. So we have authority, your power, your vampiric energy, which is your ability to absorb energy and give it out. We have the underworld, we have the veil, we have resonance, we have the matriarch, which is my ancestral side. We have about 15, 16 aspects that have showed up fundamentals of creations. I will use the word aspects, and that is just saying that these are aspects of your inner universe. The way we deal is that everything starts and is on the inside, and you project it out, all right, into what you're calling your reality. But the final finale, I don't want to say final because it's not final, but the last of the last, you know what I'm saying, has been death. And who other than the mother over here to be for that to be one of her major aspects, for that to be like her higher self, or some people like the term spirit guide, some people like ancestor, some people like angel, so whatever you like. I call it the higher self. I call it the self that's projecting itself into the body to have a human experience. Hers would be death. Hmm. So we call her the death fairy, okay? And so yeah, we're here to talk about it. We're here to talk about death, baby. Mm. That's what we're here. Right? Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Mm.
So, as a child, um, do you remember any earlier experiences with death?
It's hilarious. Okay, so I'm super. I forgot to say that I'm the oracle of all oracles. Right. So my gifts are so many. But one of them is being extremely, and it's levels to this shit, y'all. Like, just when you think you're done, you're not, you just keep expanding and expanding, and your gifts intensify, and it's crazy work. Like, it's amazing, spooky, weird, amazing. So I'm super empathic, like to the point now where I can pick up on people's pain. At first, I was a little scary. I was laying there in pain, That's a whole nother story. Um, so my first experience was I had uh, a great aunt pass away. I was so little. I had to be probably about 5. And I didn't know her. I just knew she was my family. And as a child, like, you are literally sitting there collecting data. Like, you are a sponge. And I'm a Gemini, you know? And so I was definitely sitting there collecting all the information, everything everybody was saying about her. And so that was my first funeral. And I remember I just felt overwhelmed. Like, my aunt, and they even joked because I'm from Chicago originally. So the people in the South call it Jonesing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my family. They be Jonesing, cracking jokes. They gonna talk about you. We call it just talking shit, simply talking shit. So my aunt was like, "Girl, you ain't even know her." Like, this baby was just crying her eyeballs out, like. And then I started crying. There, like, it was just so sad. But I didn't know then what I know now, which was I was picking up everybody else's shit because even then, like, I can remember the feeling. Like, I felt sad, but it's like internally I didn't feel sad. That made sense. Like, there was still that part of me that was watching everything and just taking it in. And then there was that side of me that was just like, you know. So that was my first experience. And then immediately after that, so that was my great grandma's sister that passed away. And then, so not that long after that, my grandmother's brother, so that was my great uncle, passed away. And you want to know what was so strange about this was, so Unc was, he was in the streets like that. They lived in projects. And so, I'm saying, he was slanging, you know. And he was murdered. Like, somebody knocked on his front door, bam, just shot him, right? And so obviously I wasn't there. I wasn't there. If that wasn't obvious. I was not there. But I seen it. Like, I seen this woman like shoot him, right? And so I remember going to that funeral, and the person preaching looked like the woman I seen in my vision. So I remember I just kept looking at her sideways, like, she the one that did it. She did it. But that was I didn't cry as hard. Um, the energy at that funeral was a little different.
Mm.
um, I I I remember that. So I wasn't as emotional. I was more chill, like peeping the scene. And of course, that was everybody else's energy. That's how cool everybody else was. And then after that, I was fortunate enough to where we didn't have a lot of deaths in the family. Like even my great grandma lived until she was like 90 something. And it wasn't even that anything was wrong. She was ready to go. She was tired. And I want to say she might have been my next. Oh no, how did I forget that? My cousin passed away. And that was my brother cousin. We were like 6 months in age. That shit hit hard for me. But at this point, I was like 20 something. And so now I was like 20. And at this point, I had started sculpting my own thoughts about death. Um, so at this point, I was kind of terrified of dying. But it's so weird, right? Because I was kind of terrified of death. But there was something also that gave me peace about it. You know, like my cousin was kind of in the streets a little bit and he was murdered. Uh and it was a peace like, now people ain't got to worry about him. But it was just that aching like, damn, like I'm gonna miss his presence. And then the guilt thing that people do
Yes.
where because he called me a few months, not a few months, like maybe a month before he passed and was like, yo, cuz it's getting kind of crazy. I had moved to Atlanta at this point and he was like, cuz it's getting kind of crazy. I'm gonna just come out there and lay low. And I was like, cousin, yes, of course. Like, and so I felt guilty because I felt something, you know, and I felt like I should have pushed a little more. Like, nah, ninja, like I'm gonna send the money or like something just to get him there immediately, you know. So I felt that guilt. Like if I would have did that, that wouldn't have happened, right? Um, and so that really affected me because man, that was my dad. Like and now that I think about it, that was my first feel of protection when I was still dealing it because I don't deal in protection no more. We'll talk about that later. But when that feeling of the masculine and that protective mode, like that was my first feel of absence from that. So it took a piece of me with him. Like, you know what I mean? Um And then my next experience was a little weird, bizarre, crazy, spooky for me at that time because a cousin of mine, she didn't really like me, but she liked me, but she didn't really like me, but she was jealous, and I get it now. But her baby daddy got murdered. It's a lot of murder, ain't it? Murder. Her baby daddy got murdered. He was doing some things, what I'm saying, making some drop offs and everything up in the Mississippi. And so somebody had murdered him. And so she called me one day out the blue. And it was crazy. I seen a man. Okay. Here, I'm seeing him now. So I seen a man and he was standing up, but he was dead. I knew he was dead, but he was looking at me like he was alive. That don't make no sense, but it do make sense, but it don't. But he was looking at me like he was alive and he was standing there and it was a big old man. He was a big old man, chocolate, and he was long, but his suit was so small. And I remember telling her that. I was like, cousin, I know this gonna sound weird. I was like, but I'm seeing a dark skinned man and his suit is too small. She just got super quiet. I'm like, girl, what's up? Like, and she was just like, I just came from the funeral home to go view his body. And she was like, he's tall and the suit is too small. And I was like, oh shit. Like, what's happening? you know?
Mhm.
Um, so yes, those were my early experiences with death.
Okay. So you picked up some programming from all of those, right? So in the beginning, you're picking up on the emotions of the people around you. You're picking up the cues on how you're supposed to feel about this event, just like you do about everything else as a
Right.
child, as a used to be baby, as a I just got here human.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these violent deaths where
Mm-hmm.
you're collecting data and you're feeling the different energies of how the people around you are reacting. And then you start to develop your own feelings of fear and guilt and regret with your own experience. And this is all the way up to 20 or in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm at this point, with me actually seeing the dead men. I was probably maybe like 20. Yeah, I was like 21 at this time because my cousin, yeah, about 21. Hmm.
Mhm. And did you share, well, to some extent you had to with the man in the too small suit. Did you talk to your family about any of the other earlier experiences and how
No,
did they react?
we didn't talk about it. Like
You
the
kept to
conversation
yourself.
about it was, like I said, y'all got to remember, I'm from the south side of Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So conversations don't look like, let's sit down. And, conversations was like, Uncle Leon got shot. Girl, what? And then after the funeral, it's like, damn, Uncle Leon gone. Like, but he had been locked up for this, and this, and this. Those were the conversations.
Mhm.
Like, so I'm
Like
just
we're
sitting
not
there as a
process.
kid listening to it. Like it wasn't no conversations about, or even the prep for it. Like we were all little going to funeral. You know what I mean? Wasn't no prep for it. And in my family, we don't do the closed caskets and none of that. The casket is open. Everybody go up there and view the body. And then during the service, the casket is still open. So, we just like, as the kids, you looking like, damn, that body is not moving. So that's what you call the dead. And then for me, like, I'm such a weirdo. My imagination, I'm seeing the body lift up in my head. Like,
Oh, you just reminded me I did have similar experiences. Like if you get too close, things might happen or you might see things. And I sure did play things like that over and over in my head at night, ruminating about death. Mm. So just put me right out. Um, the what was your understanding of where the spirit was? Is there somebody in the body? Is the spirit staying around the body or in the body?
I didn't even think about that. I didn't have any awareness of anything called a spirit. Um, so it was just dead. Like,
Mm.
you know, uh, literally it was
So the
like you
body
was
is
here and now
dead,
you ain't.
or the person themselves, both. It's there's
They
no separate.
dead. Yeah, we ain't know.
It's them.
I ain't know nothing about no spiritual, and no, it was like, damn, they dead. Like that's the end. Like shit,
Mhm.
I don't want to die. You know what I mean? That was my thinking as a youngster. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you how the programming started to how you started to deprogram,
Mm-hmm.
and also what was the process like to sort of surrender to
Mm-hmm.
a different paradigm.
Girl. Okay, so I mean, I'm an extremist. I don't recommend this for everybody, but I do. um, so I the story is so long. We're gonna keep it short. So I was one of those people where the very thing that you tell me not to do, I'm gonna kind of do it. You know what I mean? Like, so Christianity, my family kind of grew up Christian, but wasn't really practicing it that heavy. And then my mom got into a space where she had us doing Bible studies and shit. Like, we didn't go to church or nothing, but we did what they call the fellowship in homes and stuff like that. And I didn't like it. I ain't gonna use the word HATE because I don't use that word no more. But I
Mhm.
strongly disliked it and felt it was a waste of time. And I'd rather be at home watching the shows. You know, all the shows was on back then. Family Matters, you know what I mean? All the good stuff. We used to call it
Friday.
Urkel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm. I was upset. Anyway, so it was like this was the first pivotal point for me was somebody was doing a teaching and they was talking about psychics. And they was saying that psychics was the devil and it was of some evil shit because and then one of the major reasons for it was because God would not give you or anybody that kind of gift and not give it to everybody. Okay. And that shit
Is
didn't make
that
no
in the
sense to me.
Bible?
Huh?
Where is that in the Bible?
Girl, that's what the man was preaching. That's what he had said, you know?
Okay.
And so in my head, that made no sense because I'm like, yo, Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan. And
Mhm.
that's why he Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't got it like that. So what you trying to say? He the devil? And then I thought about it like my mama used to have dreams about people and then she would like call back home and like that person had just passed away. You know what I'm saying? Um and I would hear stories about kind of like gifts my grandma had. And then I knew that I had something that was going on inside of me. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't feel like the devil. Like, I don't feel like I'm evil. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
then that kind of was just like, so once I became of age, like, and I was an avid researcher, so I started going to libraries and just like doing research, you know? So it's like everything that they told us not to, that they told us was evil, I looked into like witches, witchcraft, the devil, Lucifer, death, ghost, like all things spiritual at the time. I didn't know that's what that was, but that's what I started dabbing into. And so the things that scared me the most were the things that I jumped right into. So at the time, death was so scary to me. Like, I would have, I didn't know at the time, but I would have like miniature like anxiety attacks or panic attacks. Like, I was kind of claustrophobic, which was so weird because I was so attached to my mom when I was little. I used to sleep under her bed. Like, I used to sneak in her room and like sleep under the bed. And so I just remember one time cleaning under my bed and I got really under there and I was like, like I can't breathe. Oh my God, if I can't breathe, I'm gonna die. And then like I remember having a cold and my nose got stopped up and I was like, can't breathe. Oh shit, I'm gonna die. And it was just like, yo, like, what is this death thing? What is it? And like, let's get into it. And so I started doing research on death and then I started running across people, of course, in the research, you come across people that had near death experiences and um all the things ghost. I got real deep into that. And then that's when I started learning about a spirit. And then I've always been attracted to channelers and mediums and, psychics. And so Sylvia Brown was popping back then.
Mhm.
So, I was engulfed. You know what I mean? And so I bought her books. I read her books and so her and just my own personal research, just going to the library, sitting at that round table, just having a million books open and just getting lost in that shit, like creating my own little world, you know. And so I started to become okay, just okay because I didn't really fear like so everything wasn't about death, like oh shit, I'm about to die. you know. So I started to become okay. So it was like So they somehow still lurking around here. They just ain't in a physical vessel, you know, is is what I was picking up on. But then so that's me being okay. But the okay part of it was now that we're actually having this discussion out loud, um, the not okay part was the actual dying, you know? And now I think about it, it was because murder, you know, I was around so much of it, you know?
Mm,
Um, because that was a thing for me, like it's gonna hurt. You know
mhm.
what I'm saying? And what about
Well, of
these
course.
people? So I started having, you know, my imagination is everything. So I started having
Yeah.
these visions of people like burnt alive. I started watching like all these scary movies. And then, you know, Freddy Krueger was popping back then. So it was like, damn, like, is he just walking around like his skin feel like it's burning all day? You know, like, um, so just being kind of creeped out and fascinated with the whole pain aspect. And then so being a person that comes from a family full of healers, which, you know, translate as nurses, um,
Mm,
I started studying the body and, you know, like its functionality and like what it does and stuff. And so that just led me down so many different paths, make a longer story short. And so what I started to realize was and listening to the medians, what I started to realize is that you don't feel that pain. Like those people that pass
right,
in those kind of situations, you know, they leave the vessel before they even have, you know. So I was
right. The
like, oh,
violence happens to the body, not the person. Mhm.
okay. So maybe this death thing ain't so bad.
Yeah, that's peace right there too.
So then it this is so crazy, right? So then it kind of flipped the script, right? Where I started getting into some of the Buddhism and I'm not gonna pronounce this right, that's okay. You know what I mean. Tibet, the people from Tibet, Tibetan cultures. Um and I gained so much knowledge and I was like, this is so cool, right? But then in their culture, it's like it scared me a little bit too because I was still on that. Because I was like, yo, like, what the fuck is the point in all of this enlightenment if you're just not gonna come back? Like you get so enlightened that you get the game and so you're not coming back. I was like, let
No
me put
more
that shit down.
reincarnation.
You know, I was like, let me put this down.
Mhm. Let's pick up somewhere else.
Yeah, let's
Pick up
go
at
somewhere
some point.
else.
Mhm.
So anyway, in the meantime, in between time, I was reading palms. That was my median back then for doing readings. And so my lifeline was long as hell. So I was like, okay, I got years and years and years to think about this shit.
Mhm.
But as the more spiritually aware I became, just through different studies, not even just about death, but just spiritual, you know, it just became something beautiful. And I'm trying to remember the experience. I can't remember the exact experience. But at that time, I wasn't even aware of my gifts like that. It's like shit just, it happens to you all the time. You don't consider it a gift or like
Mhm.
abnormal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
someone had passed away and I was with their loved one and they were just so sad. And I could just feel their sadness. It was like breaking my heart. And back then, I was so empathic, and so many things were going on in my 20s that I would actually feel pain in my heart, like real pain. And I just remember feeling chest pain. And then I could feel this energy that was just like, not upset, but it was just like a why. Like, why do you feel this way? And then so I just intuitively started to know that Your loved ones don't want you in this kind of uh, you know, sad.
Emotional state, because that energy is pulling on them too.
Yeah,
That's
they
not
don't want you there.
honoring the person. Grief. Yeah, we think that we honor them by being as sad as possible. I've heard people joke like, everybody better be bawling in my funeral,
Mm-mm,
but that's not really what you want.
mm-mm. No, it just, and you know what? Um, it's hard to tell people this when they're in that space where they're
Mhm.
terribly sad, you know? Um, it's like pointless. Like it's not helping you, it's not helping the person. And some of y'all loved ones is looking down like, next. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You
Mhm.
know? And especially some of y'all elders are like, you know, like you feel so sad that you're not thinking clearly. And in not thinking clearly, you're not a clear channel. And so they can't come to you and tell you what they want. Number one. Number two, you can't even intuit how to handle the situation from an optimal standpoint. You know? So we doing
Optimal
dumb shit.
standpoint. Hmm. But I guess you would have to tune in. That's when you have to tune into that person, the person that you know, pull out the pictures, create a connection the best way that you know how. Think of the jokes and the experiences, and then from there you can build the way to properly honor that person in a way that feels right in your own body.
Mhm.
Because that aching, like when you were 20 and you're 20, you could like physically feel that pain you weren't supposed to be feeling, and they weren't either.
No, and it's so
It's
unnatural.
frustrating.
But when you are able to commune, you know, with those that have transitioned, it's
Hmm.
like crazy work. Like they're looking for a party, like real life. They're looking for a party. They're looking for a good time. You know, like if you want to honor them, like you just said, pull out the photo albums, pop y'all shit, you know, about all the laughter, the you know what I'm saying? Like that's what they're looking for. Like that's the movie and the popcorn that they watching on the other side.
Right, right. Like I
I
didn't come
remember that.
here to create suffering. That wasn't the point. I lived a whole life on purpose. That's very
No, and
interesting.
then we have to also know that their emotions are not as strong as yours are, as you're still in this human experience. And so like
They're above it all.
say that again.
They're above it all.
They
They're
are.
not they're not down vibrating like that anymore.
And they have the opportunity of being able to see behind your eyes. You know what I'm saying? So like they can come in and feel all of your shit, you know?
Hmm.
And so imagine that you're doing that.
Who wants that?
Yeah. Who, you know, so nobody, mm-mm. So they get it. They get it. And for those that, you know, are like, I didn't get to say what I wanted to say or are
Mhm.
upset because daddy wasn't there, you know, like they genuinely know how you feel.
Mhm.
They get to really come in and see your movie. They get to feel everything that you felt being when you guys were having experiences or whenever you thought about them. They get to feel that.
That sounds like a life review.
Yeah, that's what
What we
people
call
call
a
a
life
life review. Hmm.
review. Mhm. So, what about this continuum? Because you were talking about how, you got into the Tibetan philosophy and Buddhism,
Hmm.
and then you just kind of stopped at, okay, and then you graduate and bye bye.
Yeah.
You don't have to come back anymore. But what about that process of actually coming back? It has been said that birth is as close as giving birth is the closest that a woman comes to death. without actually dying. And I'm thinking that's true, but not necessarily for physiological reasons. Like, I think that is a nod at there being a continuum
Yeah.
between birth and death.
It's a repetitive thing. So it's like you have to think of it like it's really a transition and it's called a transition for a reason. So it's like when you're giving birth here, where they just came from, they're dying from, right? Because they're transitioning now to be birthed into this reality. You know what I mean? And then so this just keeps happening every time you come into a different game. So that's why you're the close because you gotta kind of you have to experience that. So it could be translated as this, right? So like say you transition, right? And then you go to the light and at that light is, for the people that believe in the angels, right? So you see Angel Metatron. Some people they know the story, so they know that's an angel or Michael. You know,
Mhm.
and they're there, right? So then you go through the light, right? And then so when you come through the light, now your ass is being smacked, and
Period.
you know what I mean. And so sometimes because the human mind is so caught up in trauma, you know what I mean? So if that person was like murdered violently and they don't believe in God or a higher, and so as they're coming out of that vessel, they're super scared, they're da 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 da, and then they're reborn. So that might look like that mother coning out and that baby coming out of her where you just went through the light, seen the angel, and now your ass is being smacked and your mom is coding on the table, blood transfusions, all of these things, and they bring her back. You know what I mean? So it's like it's the trauma
Trauma.
and the drama,
Unprocessed.
that keep, so it's death, it's life, it's death, it's life. Does that make sense?
And that's why they say, don't go into the light, mate, unless you know what you're doing. One of the aspects that you channel is Rolanda,
Mm.
and she represents, or she is the underworld, which is what sounds like to me kind of an in between place where you can stop in and get oriented again. Um, is that a good assessment?
Yeah, definitely. Perfect.
Mhm.
For
So,
wherever you're going. Yes, you can consider like what we consider. So let's just say the underworld is a border. You know how, like, say this is a dimension right here, and here's that border, and then there's another dimension right here. So that space right here is the underworld.
okay, that's the underworld. It sounds scary.
So worlds under worlds
If
under
you're hearing
worlds
it like
under
for the
worlds.
first time, like under, down, hell, you
Yeah.
make that association. But we're really just talking about going within and figuring it out. And
Yeah.
maybe getting some rest and restoration. That rest, ooh, is it rest though? Oh, talk about that too. Okay. So we like to make these t-shirts with the RIP. And, when we want to give condolences, we always use that phrase, rest in peace. How do you feel about that
How do we feel about that?
in your experience?
The rest in peace. We don't fuck with the rest in peace. Rest is a human thing. Everything is constantly moving. Everything is constantly going. It's almost like a curse, putting a curse on somebody. Rest
Mm,
in peace. Like, no, we
mm,
don't do that. That's a human thing. You want them to keep it pushing. You want them because we are all fractal pieces of source. You know what I'm saying? And we are projected out to collect data for source to know itself, see itself from all these gazillion infinite amount of perspectives. You know what I'm saying? And so you never rest. You just go to different spaces. Pieces and pieces and pieces of you go to different spaces. That's it.
That would be stagnant. So, how could more people benefit from having a more, can I say, evolved perspective on death? Like, what would it mean if more people just had a more peaceful understanding, not fearful, more joyful, not joyful?
I'm so looking forward to my gifts being so prolific enough to where I could just and sprinkle my fairy dust everywhere and you just feel what I'm saying. Okay. Um or feel what I'm not saying. Look, man, like this is a game and go ahead and piss some people off. It's okay. Your child, it's like watching a movie. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you so engulfed in the movie and everything. You're like, oh, this is good. But once
Mm-hmm.
the movie is over, it's over. You know? And now in this day and age, people are attached to the characters. Like they'll even see the actor out in the street and be mad, like, you cheated on Susie. And it was in the damn movie. You know? Like that's how it is to transition.
So we get attached like that.
We get
Mm-hmm.
attached like that playing this game. Like that, your child, that's your child right now, is your child in this damn movie. Okay? So when you land there and you know, you're starting to transition, that shit don't matter. There's no matter. It literally, figuratively, and literally does not matter. And it's your attachments that keep you on a cycle when you're supposed to be going in a spiral, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that keeps that soul tie to the bullshit. You know, like people talk about soul ties and soul contracts and breaking the That's why that's a thing because we are so attached to focuses that we were in that we kind of like keep replaying it out. You keep having another life experience and you know, you got this soul
That's
tie
still
with,
attached to that other life.
yeah, because you're super attached, which means you went to the light.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, we
But
all
you
do
still
it.
held on to the other stuff you were supposed to leave behind.
Yeah, you're supposed to return back to source, which is the mother, which is darkness, right?
Mm-hmm. Clean break.
You're supposed to go back to darkness and really go in with the probabilities. You know what I'm saying? Of what your higher dimensional selves, you know, like where they want to go instead of a loop. Like it can be so confusing to people because your soul does pick a theme, but it's like this fractal piece of you because of the attachment stays in the same theme over and over and over and over and over again, right? Instead of going to the darkness because light is what data information is light because now you know it. You know what I mean? Darkness is unknown to the human self, right? So once you let go of that detachment from your ego, because when you detach from your ego, then these so-called children, friends, all that shit doesn't matter, right? It never existed anyway. It's just your movie. You know, so then now you go over here to darkness and now you're more connected to source. Now you're more connected to your soul, which is the suit that you put on to play in all of these different light realms, you know? And so that now that's more of a connection. Now you're just to your human self, you're rolling the dice or whatever self you come, you're rolling the dice and it's like, but it's for your optimal soul's good. What we're doing is making choices for our optimal human selves good.
Mm-hmm. So then now we're evolving.
Now we're evolving.
Mm-hmm. Not just revolving around in circles.
Yeah, so it can explain why people would say like, "Oh, this is a tribe, like we're trapped here," you know. But it's like you're always this fractal piece of you. That's its job. It's always going to play in these light realms. It's always going to play these games. But there are so many different spaces for you to play in what we are calling these light realms, you know. And it's like most of us just stay in the same game room because we know it. We're used to it. This is what we've been taught. You know what I'm saying? And when you go to the
Mhm.
darkness, it's like, oh shit, we in the game room warehouse. Like, let's go upstairs, downstairs. Like,
Yeah, instead of just staying in that 6 block radius, like you could go to an island,
yes,
you could
yes,
get on an airplane sometimes.
yes. Or you can get
So
in that
just like
car
we
and
used
go from Cali to New York, New York to Alabama, Alabama to Florida. You know, like, yes,
to
boo, you get options.
see the world, see the universe, see the multi-dimensional beings that we are. So you recently have started, maybe that'll be another part. You mentioned that the aspect that you have recently started channeling is the death fairy,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, which is something that appears in many different folklore in different forms, like death, the one that we see with the hoodie and the sickle, or
Yeah, the Grim Reaper or
the Grim Reaper, yeah,
Legba. Mm-hmm.
Papa Legba, Eshu, so many different forms, but they're all it's a universal way of referring to that group. Um, I guess similar to how we were talking about the different forms of Lilith
Mm-hmm.
and Oshun
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. So they're like cultural representations
Of the
of
same
one
energy.
universal energy. Okay,
Mhm. Or character, right? Because we're in a movie. Mm-hmm.
character. So you have had some conversations with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you think? Not think. What do you feel um, Death would want us to know more about who he is?
He is the stand-up comedian.
First and foremost,
That's what he would first and foremost like everyone to know. Okay. And this is a game.
again,
You are to have so much fun. Like, who sits down to play a game to be tortured? Like, I know I'm gonna play this game and it's gonna be boring, or I'm gonna be murdered off in a violent way. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, you
I'll
who
just
sits
be scared the whole time.
yeah, who sits down to you sit down to play a game to have a good time. You know, with a group of people, you sit down to play a game to have a good time. You know? And then once you play that game enough, you want to play a new game. So you transition, you die, you know, and get excited because now you get to play a new game.
Get excited. I think it is from the Bible. I don't know where, but it says to weep when a child enters the world and rejoice when they go out of it. That sound familiar? I know
Yeah,
I'm definitely
it does. I've heard
messing
that
it up.
before, but you know, I'm the wrong person to talk about the Bible, honey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I never got really versed in any of that,
Yeah,
but I don't even know if that's where it comes from. I'll look it up one day. But I like it as a proverb.
yeah, a proverb. We'll say that. I like that proverb. Hmm.
Yeah, so much wisdom with. So we did pull some cards
Yes.
um, before, and it was again in response to the same question of what is it that we need to know more. And we came up with I forgot. They're not. I can't show them on the screen because this background.
Oh.
So just intuitively, can you tell me what you get from this particular poll? So it started with seven, the 7 of diamonds, which is divine blessings, and that was the underlying meaning. The underlying card again, divine blessings, blessings, divine wishes, and blessings granted. That was the underlying card. Followed by the King of Hearts, which is almost self-explanatory. Self-explanatory. When it comes to hearts, that's emotional security, King of
Mhm.
Hearts. And it represents male or masculine paternal energy, secure, confident, nurturing, emotionally mature, someone who is ready for love. And then we have the 6 of diamonds. Am I saying too many together? Maybe to just get like a whole picture.
Mm. And it's very
The,
interesting to me.
the 6 of diamonds is the road to your desires, money, and wealth. It's money or material blessings are on your path. You are on the road to money. And then finally, the 5 of clovers or 5 of clubs. And that is depletion or exhaustion. A spirit representing being overworked. So that's that's an unusual pull for me. Anyway, what you got?
Um, so I feel like it's if you put it in order, that five would be the first card. Um, and then the seven, and then the king, which tells the whole story, right? It's like you got the masses, the collective who feel a way about death, and it ends up leaving them feeling depleted, undernurtured, emotionally dead zombie, while you're here because of this grief, sadness, you know. Um, and then now with beings like and us raising the frequency here, people coming online, you know what I mean? We are starting to understand the beauty in transitioning out, transitioning in and transitioning out, and the gratitude, the emotional fulfillment of having gratitude in this game, in this movie, in this simulation, to be able to touch, feel, hold, love, to focus in on that beauty, to be able to have these experiences and play in this game as if it is real. Nothing is actually touching, no thing is actually here, you know? And how perfect your imagination that you have created a space where you can touch and feel and love on and move on. You know what I'm saying?
A
But the
very
thing
own
that never sorry.
holographic universe.
And the thing that never changes is love. Regardless of what space you're in, the knowing That's that king, right? Because he's coming up
Period. Yeah,
out.
that was the underlying card, which I can.
Yeah, that king. He gets it. He's like, no matter where I'm going, no matter what it is, like the impulse to create is love. That's the title. You know what I mean? The impulse to create is love. When you see that everywhere and nowhere, you're fulfilled in totality, emotionally, spiritually, physically, ethereally, for people that, you know, it's complete, complete fulfillment. You get it from, because you had to go through in my deck, that's the shamanist. These are cups for me, you know, or tinctures in my deck. So it's like you had to come from the shamanist, you know, to understand the intuitiveness, you know, to understand your inner self. And then once you go to the shaman or the king, you come out, you know, so now you can project this out. Like, so to me, that's the representative of the masses finally catching on to this. The underlining is just love, you know,
And love is what remains. Love remains. That's
always.
my name, Kai. Always, love remains. So, speaking of love, love, fairy godmother, hashtag. What do you have that is going on currently? Like, how can someone get in touch with you? How can they be connected with their spirit guide, their higher self, their angels, and maybe have a full blown a full conversation?
You can go to my YouTube channel, Your Official Fairy Godmother. There is so much content over there. Our lives are amazing. But Patreon is where you can go view everything that I got for sale for the people. You know what we out here doing for the people. And for any of your needs, just email me. Just email me. But I have tarot, the official fairy tarot deck for sale for those that are interested. I have frequency wear, which is all the popular symbols on shirts with a sprinkle of stardust on them.
That's the unks, the sacred geometry, golden
The
ratio,
swastika.
and yes, which is actually an indigenous symbol, and it also comes up in the Adinkras. It is a very old and ancient symbol. And for one thing, it's representing four elements, but it shows up as just another representation of nature. It was hijacked for other reasons, but you got all the, like, I go through those. You have every symbol that I can think, the yin yang. Um,
Even the
you
money sign, y'all. That's a very important symbol.
as well. Yeah. So you
You know,
have
the
the
flower of life. We got everything over there that, yeah.
the fairy deck. You do coaching. I don't know if it's listed, but you absolutely are a, a talent agent. You see, recognize, and know what to do with all the gifts.
This is true. This is true. Since I've been doing this, I've been like, yo, like I'm very good at seeing people's gifts, you know, and like pulling them out. I didn't know what to call it. And Mama T is like, T Booger. It's like, you're like a talent agent. And I was like, oh shit, that's what it is. You know, like how cool. But yeah, so we have the t-shirts. I do readings, and my readings are not like everybody else's. You know what I mean? A lot of people like the cards, so we will play with the cards a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I always play with the shadow decks. You know? Um, and I channel, so it'll be like your own personal Q&A. You know, you get to ask questions, and the answers are channeled to you. And at the end of it, myself, my human self comes out and like will assist you in giving you some kind of techniques. Cause like I said, I've been a coach for 10 years plus. So You know, you get the full experience. And what I'm a median, like I said, I'm the oracle of all oracles, baby. So it's like, fuck with me, you know, I got it. Whatever you need, boo, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And I do regressions. So past life regressions, I also do those. And right now, it's a good time to hop up on those because they're only $50.
It's all within reach. There's
All
no
within
reason
reach. So
to
yes, definitely email me. Go to the Patreon, you know, if you want to see everything. Or my channel in all the description parts has all of my information.
So gratitude and thank you so much for hanging out with us, you right there on this very underexplored topic. So follow what the fairy godmother did and lean into the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable. Take that as a signal that you need to go explore and investigate. Go to the library. You don't even have to do that now. Just get to it. Research, explore.
Right? With all the chat GPTs and all of that, like,
Who
you
said?
know, all this
Don't
information right at the fingertips, all this access. It's beautiful.
right. So don't be afraid to explore why you're afraid. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being with
I
us.
want to give a shout
And
out to Mama T. You know
and
what I'm
also
saying?
Wednesdays on Wednesdays, you can tune into what's say your channel name again.
Your official fairy godmother. Everything is your official fairy godmother. You want to find me? Just hit your official fairy godmother.
So yes, please check it out. Very fascinating, life changing. I'm glad that I stumbled across and fell down the rabbit hole. So until next time, peace and love. I'm supposed to have a closing, but I don't remember what it is. So please forgive me.
Peace, love, and bliss. And remember, through your heart, booze, peace.